Thanks everyone
Great.
for joining us today. We are really excited at Ask the Organizer this month to talk about maximalist versus minimalist. How do we peacefully coexist? I'm excited to introduce our special guest, Dr. Karen Chenier. And I'm going to read you a little bit about Karen, and then we'll let Karen take it away. Dr. Karen Chenier has worked as a dance movement therapist and psychotherapist in various hospitals, mental health settings, and retirement communities throughout the Los Angeles area. Her diverse experience includes working with adults, older adults, teens, and even nuns. She's been a college lecturer at California State University, Long Beach. Karen, Long Beach connection there, in the educational
49ers.
psychology department and the dance department. After moving to Portland in 2010, she worked as an adjunct professor at Portland State University. Karen currently has a private practice office in Lake Oswego in Portland, working with adults, older adults, and couples seeking to improve their relationships and overall mental health. She also works to help families with reconciliation due to adult-child and adult-parent estrangement. Karen, we're really excited to have you here today. And my understanding is that you're going to be talking for about maybe 15 minutes or so, and then we're going to open it up and make it an interactive discussion. Is that
Yeah.
right?
Yes. Yeah. I always think active participation, at least on my part, that's the best way to learn. Uh, though I do appreciate attending a lecture and just kind of sitting back and receiving that information. So I wanted to try to balance it on both. So I have a clock here to make sure I'm not talking too much. I'll do quiet coyotes. When I moved to Portland, like people did this and I went, are they like some rock people, like some Texas? I go, oh, it's coyotes. It's the Pacific Northwest here. Um, so it'll be focused on a little bit of theory and practical knowledge, and then any issues, any even examples that you've had in your line of work, if it's with clients or maybe something you've witnessed or something personal. I just ask if when people are sharing that to just be cognizant of privacy, to not disclose somebody's name personally. Of course, you could talk about yourself using I statements, but just be aware that this is being recorded out there. So, but I would love that if there was kind of case examples, because that could really help people understand, like, oh, this is how to kind of navigate a conflict. So we could go right to it. So the theme today in with the program is kind of getting along when you both have different design styles for a house or living arrangements. What's so great about your company is how you help people navigate their own lived space so they could live their lives, with less clutter, less stress of how to find things, what are they holding on to. And then, though oftentimes we're not living alone, we're living with people. And so we have to kind of navigate this relationship to our space, our living space with another person who has a whole different aesthetic. Also, what do they do when they come home from school or work and they lay everything across the beautiful countertop, and you come home from work and you see the stuff and you go, oh my gosh, it's going to be one of those evenings. And how do you navigate that so the whole evening isn't ruined? So that's kind of my frame of working today, is like, how do you navigate that so you can kind of coexist in a way, not only in a way that engenders peace and comfort, but you understand each other and you could look at each other with a sense of kind of I know, appreciation for who that person is. I mean, that's the ideal. I'm going to go with baseline with, like, if they upset you, tick you off, you feel like you're right, they're wrong. How do you kind of break out of that. Or you can be on the receiving end to go, yes, I am. I'm a clutter freak. I live in a mess and I get to organize around that. And you have this kind of Dutch modern, no clutter around. How do we kind of get along here? And oftentimes the relationship that we want and need, we kind of co-create with each other. So sometimes that phenomenon of opposites attract are there. Like, I love the minimalist look, or I save things from my first grade teacher, or stuff that I don't know why I have those letters from an ex-boyfriend. Oh my gosh, I've been committed. Why am I holding on to that? So how do you reconcile that? So when people come together in intimate relationships, oftentimes, I mean, in our culture, there are different cultures and how we cohabitate. I'm going to just speak from the West. In the United States, it's very subjective. It's like, hey, I have feelings for you. I think we get along. I feel like you know me well. I know you really well. It might be also passion, that could be um, physical passion. I just want to be with you all the time. So let's move in. Let's get the U-Haul. Let's join together. So it's we don't have arranged marriages here. We kind of get together, and sometimes there's a lot of rationality. There's like, oh, my roommate just kicked me out, or my lease is up, this relationship's going well, let's move in. Or it could be those moments that I saw. I don't know if you experienced that, is COVID. A lot of families were kind of bringing family members into the house. Like adult children were coming back in, and they were trying to navigate that and going, oh my gosh, we need some psychological help because we're just trying to fit in. Is this the end here? Let's hunker down. And now, past COVID, like, do we move out, or what's the next steps? So the the what I wanted to share today is just some tools that you can have to help when there is tension with the space. And so there's a lot. My expertise is in psychology. You all know a lot about, I guess, interior architectural design and organizing, or the audience here is seeking out that kind of assistance. What I'm going to present is a frame of working that's called cognitive behavior therapy. So it's been around for quite a long time, and it's had different iterations and improvements, but it's not psychoanalysis or anything too deep. What's nice about cognitive behavior therapy, I think, is that it really honors the individual's feelings, their subjective experience, and then also how we understand our lived experiences through language. What do we tell ourselves when we're feeling very, I don't know, could be, let's talk about fun feelings. So it could be peace, relaxation, contentment. Then we tell ourselves something like, this is a great day, isn't it? You look terrific. Gosh, this dinner is so good. You start putting words to that feeling state, and that could actually heighten feelings of closeness and connection and appreciation. Oh, you bought that painting and you want to put it there? Huh. Yeah, I really like it too. Or, if you could be in a state where maybe you're hungry, you're a little angry, maybe annoyed or frustrated. You come home and your sweetheart has this big painting they want to put on the wall, and you're just like, oh God. really? And then the whole evening's ruined, we get into, your taste. I just don't get it. I feel crowded. Maybe, we put words to what it is that we're feeling. And actually those words, that narration is a code to help us navigate. But sometimes that type of process could be thwarted with faulty thinking. We get into absolutes, such like, oh, you always do this. You should ask me. You never ask me. So never, always. Those are kind of hints that the individual is in a compromised place emotionally to be able to even hear what the other person says or offer some type of I guess I would say soft communication skills such as warmth and closeness. You begin to kind of non-verbally do things like roll your eyes or respond in I gave a little disgust there, like, your partner won't go, oh, I read disgust. You think I'm disgusting, or you think my aesthetic is disgusting? Rarely do we talk like that. We'll just kind of go, gosh, I feel kind of awkward. I was excited about showing you the new IKEA shelf I built. I'm feeling kind of vulnerable, and we don't really talk like that. We get into like, oh, there you go again. Can't I do anything right? So what's nice about cognitive behavior therapy is it not only acknowledges the feelings, but it looks at what is it that we tell ourselves when we're feeling something, and then kind of working in a way where we go, well, right now the feelings are a little too activated, too hot to navigate. So let's just acknowledge the feelings and find a way to maybe cool them off. Anger is one of my favorites, by the way. It's like so empowering, when we're angry, we we actually feel activated. It gives us energy. It gives us focus. And then we could get into a place where we feel superior. And actually, our way is the right way, it's the better way. So it could really be. I had a teacher that used to say, anger is addictive. And I would go, oh, be careful that word. Anyway, um, but I go, it's more seductive. I think, anger, because you feel empowered, you feel righteous, you feel strong. I don't feel weak and vulnerable. So, if there's anger in the room that's a little too intense, I'd say anything over, like 40%, if we're too activated, it really makes it impossible for us to have a constructive conversation. So one of the ways of how do you get along is really knowing yourself. And if you know yourself, you can kind of take a sense of personal responsibility and to go, yeah, I did come home and I'm really angry right now. Probably now is not the best time to show me that IKEA table you just built. Don't take it personally. I'm just, I got this feedback from work, or it's been a long day, it's been hot. I'm not very receptive. It's really hard to do that. And if one knows oneself, you can kind of navigate that. And it's not impossible, but it does take work. And the payoff usually in the therapy is, at least when I've worked with families or couples, it's usually they come in and say, look how messed up they are. It's like, change them. Can you fix them? If you fix them, it's going to be perfect. We'll all agree this is where you put your stuff after you get home from work. You put it by the shoe area, and then you put away your food in your cups. And, you know, right? We have a system. Why isn't it being followed? To understand, to go, if they just do what I think that they should do, everything's going to be peaceful. and to go, oh, uh, you know, uh, maybe, but I bet you if we test drove that theory, that would totally fall on its face. Because there's days you come home from work or your partner comes home from work, they're in a good mood, the shoes are in the wrong place, there's stuff on the counter, they're not bugged at all. They're totally fine because they just, I know, got a raise. It was a great day at work. The sun's out. So, the idea that like those shoes in the wrong place just ruin the evening is really not kind of in a way true. It's like I'm feeling angry, annoyed, and bad, and I'm looking for a fight. I'm just looking for what's wrong out there. And to kind of, that, and you could catch yourself, or you could see your partner ticking to that, like, God, the shoes are in the wrong place. And you just kind of go, okay, they're in anger, righteous mode. You could, you find a way to go, okay, I'm not going to take it personally. I'm not going to react, though I'm definitely going to talk about this later. So it's really thinking strategically to kind of create a peace and harmony and how to interact. So one of the hardest things is to just identify your own feelings. So I'll hear from in working with couples or families is you made me feel, and in a way, nobody makes you feel. You just feel because you're a human being and we feel. And we have some of us are really tuned in. There's a fancy term. There's intrapersonal skills, INTRA. That means an awareness of your own feeling states. Some people just have like a spidey sense about that. They are really tuned into their feelings. Now, some people aren't. They just kind of don't get it. They're like, I don't I don't understand. Just do what I want. They can't, it's hard for them to identify their feelings. Though once they do kind of be able to identify their feelings or put words to it, it really kind of what I've seen in my work, it kind of gets them, they get like, I've got this new superpower, and it's like, yeah, well, you might not have been taught. Um, it wasn't modeled in your profession or your environment, but we all have feelings, and I'm going to code them in English. There's thousands of feelings. There's even a fancy journal in psychology called Psychology of Motion. They say there's 2,000 feelings. That's like too many, right? So the feeling, if we could open that up, the feeling wheel, maybe some of you might have even seen this, or uh, different, there's different ways to kind of look at feelings. So some people use emojis and the feelings, and if you ever work with young people, they'll say, well, didn't you understand my text? The volcano meant I'm really mad. And it's like, oh, I don't speak emoji. Were you angry? Were you furious? Yes. Okay. So this feelings wheel, I don't know if you could see it because it's printed up, but we'll have a PDF copy after that you could look at. But that inner circle is the cross-cultural identified emotions that Darwin said we feel because we're human, and it has served us to affiliate. So if I see somebody and they're maybe they've got the crinkles around their eyes and you can see their teeth and their I could, no matter what culture I'm in, I could read, that person is happy, and it's kind of contagious. I could smile back and they're like, yeah, we're same with other emotions too. There could be like, if you see somebody angry, they might have the furrow brow. Maybe if you have less melon, you could actually see the red the term redneck, I'm getting upset, I'm getting angry, furrow brow, tight, tight mouth, kind of staring eyes. If you do that, actually other people can start feeling it too. You know, um, I don't know how many of you have pets, but I don't know, my dog can, hear and respond to like feelings, a tone of voice. So the inner circle is just kind of, I'd say, if couples can just say, yeah, I'm really angry, I'm really ticked off, that is Herculean. If they could begin to identify, to go, oh yeah, you didn't make me angry. I am angry, and just seeing your shoes just tip me to furious. And to just be aware of, like, oh, okay, that's where I'm at. I'd say unpleasant emotions are like fear, anger, disgust, sadness. I mean, unpleasant being subjectively, th- they don't feel so great to maybe experience in long periods of time, or some actually fear are really unhealthy because all that adrenaline gets in your system, not too good to feel. But in small doses, these feelings tell you something really important about yourself. So part of the tool is to understand, not to get rid of your feeling, but just to kind of go, right now, I'm operating in an angry mode and maybe a little bit of disgust. That's kind of driving the car right now. That needs to go in the back seat. And I need to take a walk around the block before I look at your shelf. And then you could be on the other end. You just built your IKEA shelf and you're feeling really proud, you're happy. And then you just get crushed by your partner. It could just be really devastating and sad. And to go, oh, I was so excited about that. And go, oh, okay, I really wanted to share this experience. To go, I am disappointed that they didn't respond. And I'm not, it's, they're going to take care of themselves, walk around the block, watch their face, pet the dog, pet the cat, something. I'm going to maybe do the same. I'm going to take care of myself and not take it as personally. So cognitive behavior therapy, one of the first things to do is just identify the feelings. That's it. If you could identify the feelings, you're off and running. Now, I don't know if we could pull up the second sheet. I think it was the cognitive, is it the mood journal? It might be. I don't know if I have that. If I don't, I might give you that. This is a tool, Dr. Burns, David Burns. He's a emeritus professor. He's actually one of the, gosh, I would totally refer to some of his books. I think I even have a library book of his right here. I reread this often. David Burns, Feeling Good Together. I don't know if you have it, Dr. David Burns, but he wrote Feeling Good. He's just chock full of really practical advice. And also the way he writes, being a professor at Stanford, he writes like, no, he's not hoity, and he's just really relatable, very respectful in his writing. But he created this mood journal. And you could say, okay, I could do a mood log. What's the upsetting event? They came home and they criticized, I know, me leaving something out that they didn't want to. That made me feel sad, depressed, maybe a little bit angry. So you just kind of check those as a way to, like, and how intense is it? And the now column is just like, you could just rate like 90%. you know, um, it's pretty intense. To just actually, that process, to do that, is going to help you engage parts of your brain that are going to help you regulate and calm. And then you can notice the negative thoughts that you have. So they always do that. They don't like my style. They don't respect what the organizer did. I wasted my money and my time. I'm with the wrong person. These are negative thoughts. And then and you could then the percentile column that says now, all that means is how true is that statement? Oh, 100% true. Boy, because I'm really mad or I'm really devastated and gutted and sad. After you do some self-care, kind of thinking, taking some time, you could go back and go, okay, do they always do that? I could examine the evidence and go, no, they don't always criticize my design ideas or my organizing ideas. But they do it a lot. Maybe, okay, so that statement's more of like 40%. So you begin to kind of go, okay, I'm getting away from all or nothing thinking, which is extraordinary. Once you begin to go, okay, they don't always do that. Um, and then the positive thought column is going, something where you go, I love my shelf. I am sad because I really want to improve my life. I want to kind of get out of the status quo. I want to not live with clutter. I want more ease in my life. I want people to come over and feel comfortable and not have to clean off a counter. So my feeling tells me that my things my is important to me. I really have an appreciation of my physical environment. So you don't want to get rid of the feeling because it tells you a value of yourself. So you could just say, my things mean a lot to me. Something where you take that kind of negative thought or that uncomfortable feeling and you begin to kind of spin that. And you could do that and kind of help yourself in terms of changing yourself. So in terms of bridging that chasm between you and your partner, it's trying to validate your own feelings and then looking at your own thoughts and to see if there's kind of the distortions. There's a column called distortions. And on the next page of the daily mood log, they list cognitive distortions. And I don't know, I don't care for politics or, political people talking because they're full of distortions. It's all or nothing thinking. It's they magnify and minimize. So they'll say crime's low because of my or the governor's plan. Aren't they terrific? And you go, well, the governor was part of it, but there's less crime because there's more jobs. There's other factors. So we kind of create distortions that oftentimes glorify us and minimize another. So it's trying, if we're living in a house and cohabitating, we have to reach that sense of equality and respect. So it's kind of pulling back those distortions and going, oh, I am kind of blaming them for, why the house is in a catastrophe. I'm like, oh yeah, boy, I don't want to do that. I love them. I want to have a good evening. Boy, I guess I am feeling a little sad and I need comfort. How do I do that? Definitely not by yelling or criticizing. So, the positive thought is a way to just try to reframe the negative thought. It's not discounting your feelings, which often I hear a lot of people going when they've read maybe just a little bit of those self help books or self help blogs. They'll say, or I don't know if you've ever had a negative thought and somebody gives you a positive saying right after and you go, I don't want to hear that. You just go, no, the first thing you do is you validate the person. You could go, I don't know what that's like. And I'm so glad you told me. Man, it'll cool off everything. They'll feel, I don't know what they'll feel because we'd have to ask them, but it's like the more closer to you. Like you get it. You validate what it is that they're feeling. They feel tend to be heard and respected, not minimized, discounted. So the positive thought really has to come from the individual, not from the other, another person. So at this time, these are just some tools to kind of take home, take this to go, yeah, something happened. I'm going to take that daily mood log. I'm going to identify my feelings and go, let's see if I could operationalize this technique to kind of make a bridge that gap so I don't feel like I've ruined my partner's evening or I don't feel like my partner ruined our evening, that we could go, oh yeah, there was something, that an antecedent I just felt intensely, and I'm going to kind of be responsible for that, my part. So we'll stop the I guess the form sharing, and I wanted to open it up, and I spoke way too long, right? Didn't I say that? I got into professor mode quick.
Well, it was really interesting, Karen, at least from my perspective, and hopefully to those joining us today. We will share these handouts with folks in a follow-up email afterwards. And I think there was one other one you were going to share with us, like 7 misguided thoughts or something like that.
Yeah, the distortions, so they were on the bottom of that mood log, but I could give the same sheet that just lists the cognitive distortions. Now, once you get that, I remember getting that and going, I could pick out everybody's cognitive distortion, but it's hard to self-reflect, at least, it's like, oh, I'm doing that too. I'm going into always, never. Whew, it's way harder to reflect on yourself. So being really kind and compassionate. So I could send you that sheet after the presentation, and you can follow up with others, and they could get that information. That'd be really helpful.
That would be great. And I'd love to open it up and see if people have questions for you, or you ask for some
Yeah.
examples of relationships, some case studies, but without sharing the person's name. So would anybody like to ask Karen a question? Oh, sorry, Karen. I think you got excited and hit your mute button again.
Yeah. Anything that you've seen, I statements describing, that you were active participant or maybe a witness.
I have something. I can jump in.
Yes.
Hi. I wanted to, and thank you obviously for what you've shared thus far. I'm curious to know what CBT would say, or kind of like what would be the first steps if, let's say, okay, for example, in my case, I really like to keep things, minimal. And if I see I'm not using something for a long period of time, I think, well, from my past training, what resources in town could give it a second life, et cetera. My partner doesn't have that same, orientation. And of course, I've gone through the anger about that or whatever in the past. But obviously, in the end, we got married. So it's like I obviously accepted it on some level. But it's like, so now I'm more at the point where I really do want to understand. I do want to try to bridge the gap. But sometimes it's that piece of like, I don't like get it. For example, like a bicycle that hasn't been touched in 7 years, other than the 2 times we moved it from house to house. Like, why is it still here? Like I genuinely want to know, like, what is behind. It's like, if I want to take that first step, if people want to try to bridge the gap, it's like, what's that question you can do to try to start chipping away at the block that is between those two perspectives, and obviously not from a place of anger, like what's wrong with you, but just like, how can you start the dialogue? How can you like really say, okay, I'm going to kind of I want to know what's going on in your mind, with this or whatever items or, stuff like that.
Angela, that's a great question. I want to kind of repeat it and let me know if I'm kind of on the same track. So the event is there's the bike in the garage that hasn't been touched. It's right. And you look at it and you see like gosh, this could be repurposed and this could be used and someone would appreciate this. And we would have room in the garage. I married you because I love you and I knew you're like this. So I know I stepped into this and I still want to I want to use this as an opportunity. This is what's so cool about your question. I see it as an opportunity for intimacy and knowing about your partner a little bit more. Is that kind of
Yeah, that's the place where
Yeah.
I've gotten to, or where I want to know. So what would be that first step from that
Yeah.
perspective, rather than, what, like, this is so stupid, or, whatever.
I'll give you the PowerPoint reason why you should recycle this from the environment to our neighborhood and
Right, yeah, not from the righteous point of view, but yeah, no, I think you summarized it. Yeah, as the opportunity for intimacy, how can you
yes.
kind of kick that off,
Yeah, that's great. And I think that's that fire that happens when we're attracted to that opposite. It's like I'm attracted to that, but then it drives me nuts, that there's too much. So how do I get curious? So you could do something like, this would be if you're not, I'm going to use an acronym that addiction recovery groups use is HALT. You never want to have a conversation if you're hungry, angry, lonely, tired. So don't have a conversation to invite intimacy. If he's tired, you're lonely. Okay. And then I had a couple that weren't in recovery or anything. They go, or excessively drunk. I go, that's a good one. Don't do that if you're excessively drunk. No serious conversation. Or if you do have one, go, the gloves are going to come off. Going to be, just kind of give yourself some grace. But if you could do like the 1 minute exercise. So this would be like, I'm curious, sweetheart, I'm curious about this bike that's in the garage. And if you say it with as much, I guess, positive encouragement, like there's not I'm curious about that bike in the garage, he's going to be already, all right, I'm going to tell you why, because I'm going to need that chain and those, whatever the brake things. And he's going to give you a whole list of why he has the bike. So, so as much, calmness and in your body language, tone of voice, you give him a cup of tea, hey, I am like, oh, I'm in the garage. I'm just curious about, the bike that we have and that you have it, what is that? Can you tell me about why is that important to you? Why are you keeping it? Why is it here? Then he might be on guard because he knows you, because he was like attracted to this minimalist that you are. Like, is there a hidden agenda? You're gonna, and genuinely you go, no, I'm curious. I'm truly, I want to understand. And he might, I don't know. He might be shocked, surprised. So he might not have words to do that and go, and you could go, oh, if you don't want to talk about it now, no worries. Though I'm curious about it. If I'd like to, let's take a break. We don't have to talk about this today. And he might go, no, 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 I'll tell you why. Or like, to come back to it if he's shocked and fearful. Usually fear is when our adrenaline kicks up, we get into reaction mode. We pick a stick up and hit it, or we run, or we freeze. If there's any of that fear, and that's like unblinking eye, it could kind of look like surprise a little bit, but deer in headlights. If he gets like that and go, oh yeah, we don't have to talk about it now, I'm just curious. And then he might go, oh, I'll tell you. And then so the 1 minute exercise is, you could go, oh, well, how about if we do an exercise with this? You tell me about the bite for like a whole minute, like thoughts and feelings about it. I'm just going to really listen. We got two ears, one mouth. I'm going to listen. And then after, I'm going to, see if I get it, what it means to you. And then, repeat, like, even if he's saying it and he's kind of animated and excited, you could even, if he doesn't say, I'm excited about that, I'm really attached to this, it's very sentimental. If he's not saying, I feel statements, you could even say, I almost hear excitement about this and care. And, when you talk about the bike, is that right? And then he'll go, yeah, though I don't, yeah, I think you got it, and they go, oh, okay. And then it would be, do you want to hear, I'd like to share with you my, you know, feelings about it and thoughts about it. Are you in a space to hear it out for just a minute? And he might go, oh, I knew it. Or you could say, go, no, we don't have to do that now. But so it's an invitation. You're going to learn something about him.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, no, that's wonderful. And it's making me realize, this is a slow process. When you really sit and listen, it's a slow process. Someone like me is just like, item, 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 item. This stays, this goes, that stays, that goes, gone, 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 gone. And it's like when you're working with someone else, you obviously you can't move that fast. You have to be patient. That's the vibe I'm getting when I'm hearing you talk about that. There's a level of, calm and slow pace, and it's measured. And I think that's a really good reminder.
Yeah, it's not a race, it's more of a marathon. It's yeah, and it takes you could even say doing this, it is really good for the brain. It activates the frontal cortex. It's really good for us to do that. It kind of slows us down. It's all that sagey wisdom stuff that people talk about, like, oh yeah, you're making a chess move. You're not whack-a-mole. Or shame blame is fast. Anger is really fast. Intimacy is slow. It's not to be too crude, but it's like foreplay, it's like warm, fuzzy stuff. And that is a system in the body that's a system that's relax and digest. So passion, it's so interesting. Passion has a combination of excitement, but comfort. So when you invite intimacy in a relationship, an ongoing relationship, it kind of adds this new excitement. Like, I didn't know that about you. But if I feel like you're going to attack me, if you're going to criticize me, I'm not going to share that.
Yeah, so true. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your question, Angela, and for being vulnerable. Is there anybody else who would like to ask Karen a question or share a scenario?
I just wanted to say thank you, Karen, for the reminder about cognitive distortions. They can really become a habit, and I know I do it. And thank you for flagging that, and that I don't have to act in the moment when I'm angry about some mess on the stairs, or the breakfast dishes in the sink, that I can just cool off a little. So thank you. This is really good perspective.
You're welcome. We're human. We have we make mistakes. We get judgmental and critical, and then to be able to go, oh yeah, I really needed to blame you for a little bit. I was taking it out on you. You could always apologize too. And or if your partner's really angry at you, you could go, huh, I didn't know that. Can you tell me more? And that could be, you're not going to fight. I go, and no, it's so okay, you know. So you're welcome. So we all do that. We simplify the world.
Mm.
I think it's a much more complicated. Uh, it, it's much more complicated if we kind of clean our own house, internal house, interpersonally, uh, than controlling another person. We see that definitely in our culture a little bit. If they just did this,
Yeah.
everything would be perfect. And then you go, yeah, right. I always laugh. I get it in psychology. There's always like, oh, if you do this well, it's going to be perfect. I go, no, we're a human. We're a messy bunch. That's what makes us so interesting, doesn't it? You know, we're complicated.
Mm.
Yeah. So you're welcome. Yeah.
I had a quick comment. I really liked what you shared about it not being always about the object that causes the conflict. It could just be kind of that tipping point of, things have been building, emotions are running high. But yeah, I also thought it was interesting. I grew up in a household with one minimalist parent, one maximalist parent. So I feel like I've seen their dynamic a lot. And I feel like they were always really, respectful of each other. But I think it's for them, what really worked is kind of the importance of having their own space. And, that doesn't have to be like a whole room, but even just like this cupboard is going to be mine for my craft items, or whatever it may be, just kind of finding that space where you're free to have your own items that make you happy. And that's kind of just your own space that nobody touches.
I love that. Yeah, that's so you saw it modeled in your household, and that's great to go, okay, I know what it looks like when it works out well. And I know my dad likes his, I don't know if it's his tools in the garage, or mom or dad, maybe they're both crafty, but this is going to be a messy area and I have no control of it. Same with adult children and adult parents I've worked with. Like if they've come back in the home, they'll say, well, it's my house, this is how they should keep their room. And I'm like, they're an adult. That it's their room. um you know, you invited them to come back into the house. Now you're telling them that they have to clean the room. So yes, and go, well, you're pretty upset about that, but they lived really differently. Um, how do you get curious about it? What does it do to you that they're in the house? Usually it's some other thing. It's like, well, they're in the house and they're not working like I think that they should. And I go, okay, so it's more of their room is a mess. It's whatever you're telling yourself, that they're failing to thrive and take off. And that no wonder you're anxious and upset and distressed about that. That's something different than a messy room. um I really appreciate that. I like that, having your own space that you could kind of keep. Yeah.
Karen, we oftentimes work with older adults who are in the process of right sizing and maybe moving to a smaller space. And sometimes their adult children or their loved ones might be putting pressure on them to let go of things that they might not be ready to let go of, or might not kind of respect their process or give them time and space to process and
Yeah,
make
right,
decisions. Can
right.
you share any
Yeah.
any tools that might be helpful there when we're getting pressure from an outside source and
Yeah.
we're just not ready?
Like, aren't you guys supposed to come in at big rocks and fix them? I'm paying a lot of money here to change my parents here to live like how I want. Okay. Parentification. Okay. Yeah. So, the that for the adult children that are kind of coming in and, whatever pressure they're under, how they want their parent to live their life, it's like, okay, are they, they're confused sometimes. Like, I don't understand why my mom or my dad holds down all this stuff. I've read hoarding stuff. I think they're a hoarder. I'm going to call, a social worker in, and if it turns into, if you could, I always say with, adult children coming in to help, there is a power differential. So we have a different generation now coming in. It's not a generation of thou shalt honor the parents. Like, a lot of adult children are like, I don't know my parents anything. And some of the parents are like, oh my gosh, I did this all for you. And, I'm going through this emotional loss. I don't want to let go of these things. It reminds me of, I know your mom or your dad. It's just too painful. Or if they can't even talk about it, they get angry. To navigate, to kind of let them know, the adult children, right from the get-go, is that this is going to be a process that's a little bit more of a systematic process in which you're going to help them organize or downsize in a way that whoever the client is, if it's the adult, here we go. The adult parent or the adult child, really getting a clear understanding who's kind of the boss here, and what is their expectation. So if it is coming from the adult parent saying, I'm all into downsizing, I think it's important, I need to do that they're motivated to do that. And at times, if they stall out and they're sad or overwhelmed at the process, to kind of read those signals, and instead of getting anxious and reactive, like we better do it now or something, to go, okay, we could take a break and talk about that. What is it to let go of this, and just acknowledging the feelings for a moment. And if the adult child can't do it, maybe there's a grandkid that could come in and help. In terms of being able to just go, oh, okay, I can't lose it because a grandkid is here. That, okay, I don't want to let go of all these things, though. I know I need to sell the place, and I'm feeling really sad about it. I've heard of sometimes grandkids going, oh, I'll scan a picture for you, granddad, and then you could have a picture of the letter or the clothes, like the favorite clothes or the stories. It is, for older adults, there is a stage, integrity versus despair. This is Erik Erikson, where we know what's coming next. We're downsizing for a reason, and kind of approaching one's own mortality and loss and death is intense. So if it is a way to go, this was really a meaningful story and it ends with me, that I'm sad about it, and that's okay. I'm feeling pretty hopeless about it. Maybe there's a way that I could, write this out or share this story with somebody, even with a big rocks organizer. I know you guys go in with 2 people, if it is one person, to go, oh, we could just sit with this for a moment, and you could, what are you feeling right now? And if it is, they go, I'm feeling pressured, and, I'm feeling overwhelmed, and just like breathing with it for yourself to go, notice like, oh, I've got a couple hours here. I have to do this work, to go, oh, I'm also feeling a little bit anxious, that there's this deadline that, we might have to take it to the next day, because I'm going to spend a little time here to just acknowledge the feelings with this person. and then encountering the resistance or getting resistance to change. So you can't really make anybody change. You have to find what is the motivation. So it's like, your life will be simpler. You'll be able to walk into a space. You could give them that rationalization. Your approach, though, they have to kind of acknowledge, like, this is hard, and you get it, how hard it is. You're trying to get it. You don't totally get it. You could sympathize with, they could, if they do cry or they get angry, you could just go, okay, it's a little emotional for this person right now. Let's take a break. Let's do another activity, maybe distract them, do something else, work on another part of the house, and then revisit it. Or if it might be, let's just take a moment to talk about, what does this bring up for you as we opened up this box, or what is it with these clothes? What does that mean to you? So not asking you to be a therapist, it's more being you just being a caring person, especially if the adult child can't do that, because there might be some resentment, who knows what issue you're walking into. um, so and then the adult child is like, well, they're supposed to do this, and they've got a timeline, and you're hearing their stress, and you just go, I see that this is very stressful for you, that your mom or your dad isn't moving in this way. They don't meet criteria for licensed social worker to come in. So it's, you have to get them motivated. They have to get buy-in on this.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Karen. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
we're already at
No, we're
time
at that.
today. This really flew
Yeah.
by. We really appreciate you coming and sharing your wisdom with us. And
Yeah.
I would love it if everybody would want to come back next month, August 7th from 4 to 5 p.m. So August 9th is National Book Lovers Day, and we're going to be reading a book called How to Keep House While Drowning. And it's a 2 to 3 hour read. It's really short. And even if you don't have time to read the book, I think we're going to still have a great discussion, and folks should come. So that'll be next month's topic.
Yes.
Thank you so much, everybody, for being here tonight.
Welcome. Thank you, Whitney.
Thanks, Karen, so much.
Good night.
Bye-bye. Good night.
Thank
you,
you.
everybody.
Thank you, Karen.